Well, it's been a busy few days in the watch world, as most have probably already seen. The guys at Rolex are at it again. Yep. They announced a certified pre-owned program just a few days ago. And depending on what you read and who you are out there in the watch community, it's either genius or just another money grab, which of course, I mean, it's a business, so that's kind of genius. But, or it could ruin the watch market as we know it. I think that's pretty, that's pretty drastic, I think. I think it's, yeah, look, my somewhat rudimentary view on this, for those of you who are watching this who care, is it probably is good business sense and quite genius on Rolex's part. Love Rolex or hate them, these guys know how to run a business, and boy do they do it well. So let's have a little chat about that, shall we? So there's a few rules in place with this program. I think it's got to be a watch that's 3 years old. It's I kind of think of it as like trading in a car, right? So you go into a BMW dealership, as I've done in the past when I've owned their cars, and you go on a full circle program. So you can have car X, let's call it a 3 Series, which is what I had many years ago, and we guarantee you a value at the end of your 3-year lease, in effect. It's almost like Rolex has created their own version of this, right? They then service the watch, they then give it a great little 2-year beige warranty and send it on its merry way into the happy hands of someone else to own. The great thing I think about Rolex is the trade-in value, or the full circle value, or whatever you want to call it, is probably worth more, or at least the same as what you paid for at retail. Now, this is all a guesstimation, right? Because we don't have any hard facts or figures in relation to this. But if you go on the value of the watches on the grey market, then yeah, they're worth more when they walk out the door of an AD than they are sitting in the AD store. So Rolex is getting in on a piece of that pie. And maybe even just getting themselves a broader slice of the pie. And what I mean by that is potentially a wider audience of people, not just enthusiasts and collectors, but maybe appealing to Jenny or Jill or Bob or Sean down the street, in terms of, you come in, we can't give you that watch that you want, but you can walk out today with that watch. And even better, in 3 years, when you bring that watch back, we can give you the watch that you want. And it's a nil-sum game at the end of the day, because we're going to effectively guarantee the value of that watch. I'm making this up in the sense of, they haven't said they're going to guarantee the value, but again, if you go on the current values of these watches on the grey market, well, it's highly likely that you're going to be sitting around that price point, right? Otherwise, sell that watch on the grey market for more than you bought it for and come back and buy that watch. I mean, I think effectively Rolex has just dealt themselves into their own little grey market. And I think it's pretty genius. I mean, whoever came up with that idea around the board is definitely getting a nice little bonus, don't you think, for Christmas? Or at least next Christmas, once this thing's rolled out. Now, it's limited, I think, for the first 6 months of next year to only a handful of ADs in Europe. This baby works. I guarantee you it's going to roll out pretty quickly after that to everyone else. Rolex also confirmed last month they're extending their factory and their capacity, which arguably they need to do anyway. That's going to take obviously a couple of years at least to filter through, because you can't just say you're extending a factory and it's there. It's going to take some time. And they're doing a flagship store in London on Bond Street, so presumably they're going to have some product to sell in that store. It's very interesting. Is it a shift more broadly away from ADs? I don't know. I mean, they kind of have all care and no responsibility having that process in place with ADs. So I don't know if they would do that. I know Richemont, for example, seems to be taking a lot of their stores back for reasons that obviously make sense to them. But other than the Bond Street store, there's no real shift at Rolex to do that as yet. The other thing I find really interesting about all of this that I think not everyone's really talking about is the fact that it's about a 6-month wait if you need to get your watch serviced or repaired at Rolex. In fact, I think from memory, I was talking to an AD in Melbourne, and there's only one authorised service/repairer for all of Australia, which is probably on the ratio about right for however many pieces are sold here each year. And I guess it probably corresponds in Europe to a similar type arrangement. And by that I mean, let's call it for every 10, it's one service repairer, whether that's 10,000 or whatever. I'm making up numbers, but it's for illustrative purposes. And, so from that point of view, it's all right. But 6 months to get your watch serviced or repaired? I mean, it is kind of ludicrous, right? You spend so much money on a watch like that, and then it's out of action. You can't wear it at all. Ay. How's that going to work now with the new system in place, which arguably you'd think you're going to have more watchers filtering through that process, right? Because that's also how Rolex gets a slice of that pie. Because they're going to service and make those watches look like new, like trading in a car. Sometimes they'll paint the car again if it's that completely rat shit to make it look new. They give them a full detail, a full clean, everything. That's effectively what they're going to do with these watches when they take them back. So, yeah, there's a lot of moving parts to this, but it is very interesting. I think it's quite ingenious. I'm looking forward to seeing this work. Is it going to mean that we're going to be able to get the Rolex watch we want quicker? No, I don't think so. Is it going to make it easier for people to get on a list or get into the process and the system with some ADs? Potentially. Potentially some of that bullshit with your buying history might get a little bit easier if you're doing the process that I described at the start of the video, which is you walk in, you want to buy the GMT or the Daytona, and they steer you towards something else with the promise of getting that as your next watch and trading in the current one. And you kind of get to, roll around in your BMW 3 Series until you can afford the M3. Not afford, sorry, in this case, because the irony of all of this is those steel watches that are such hot property at Rolex, whilst they are expensive, yes, they're not hundreds of thousands of dollars, because it is not. That's the hilarity of all of this. But yeah, I think it's an interesting move. That's my short little thoughts on it. I'd love to know what everyone else thinks, because I'm sure everyone has an opinion on this. It's a lovely little bit of Christmas news. Look, you guys know I don't own a Rolex for the obvious reasons that we talk about on this and every other watch channel. Not to say that I don't want a number of those models. You also know I don't play into the bullshit of some of the ADs, and that if that means I'm on a waiting list forever and a day never to receive a Rolex, well, so be it. I'll buy something else. There's so many fantastic watches out there. But it doesn't mean I don't like talking about the brand, and I definitely love and appreciate the genius behind their marketing and exclusivity with their watches. I think it's fabulous, and I just want to see where this all goes. Until next time, see you guys.